No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Only just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We gonna light it up now.
Hello. Welcome to the HVAC Live Show, where we talk about all things HVAC that no one else is talking about in the industry. I've got an exciting show for you tonight. We've got a guest that will be joining us in just a little bit. I think he's running a couple minutes behind, and that's okay because I've got a few things I want to cover with you guys anyway. So I want to start out tonight's show with some questions, because I know some of you are homeowners, some of you are pros, and I'd love to get your perspective because tonight's guest is an expert on the training. He has insights that folks don't normally get to see on the struggles, the pain points, and the overall challenges of moving our industry forward and making sure folks know what they need to know to take care of their business, their customers, and so on. And my question to you tonight, Josh's question for you, let me find my little video clips here, guys. Here we go. Josh's question for you. And my question to you is, what do you think, your pro, someone that has been in your home, someone that has serviced your heating and air system, what do you think that we need more training on? Because I know what I think the answer to that question would be, but I'd love to hear your perspective on that. What's something that you have seen and you think, hey, I think we need to see more training on that in the industry. So feel free to say hello in the chat. We've already had a few of you, and I always like to say hello back. So if you are joining us in the chat, say hello, share where you're located. Of course, we got Bob, as always. Good to see you, Bob. Sam, thanks for joining us. Gotten the sunglasses on. Hey, it's almost fall time, at least here in Virginia. So no more sunglasses. We're not going to have those on our show anymore. I'm just kidding. So good to see you, Sam. And then, of course, Ryan. Ryan has been with me through thick and thin. Joined me on shows when it was just he and I having a conversation, and we've really built this up. A few weeks ago, we almost hit 100 people on here, which would have been a first for me for our Tuesday night live show. So I do appreciate you, if you are watching, taking time out of your busy Tuesday night to spend it with us. Sam says he is from near Cincinnati, so good to see you. NF says, I'm a homeowner wondering what's the difference between a mini split and a heat pump. I don't know these terms from Oregon. I'm so glad you said that, and I'll answer that right now. But I have videos coming out very soon. We're going to do a whole series of videos that are literally going to be they're just going to be titled, What's This? And I'm going to tell you what it is. What's that? And I'm going to tell you what it is. But so a mini split, well, let me back up. Let's cover heat pump first. I think that there are plenty of videos out there where folks try to get way too complicated, trying to explain what a heat pump is. And I think it's a lot simpler than a lot of folks realize. And a heat pump simply is an air conditioner. It is an outdoor air conditioning unit, but they install something in there called a reversing valve. And all the a heat pump is an air conditioner that has a reversing valve that can reverse the flow of that refrigerant. That's all it is. Now you might say, well, why would you want to do that? Well, it makes it to where your heat pump can still air condition your home in the summer, but because it can reverse the flow of refrigerant, it can make the indoor coil warm and it can make you have heat in your house. Still the same unit, still the same outdoor unit, but because it's able to reverse the flow of refrigerant, it literally makes what we would normally say the indoor unit has the evaporator coil, outdoor unit has the condenser coil. It flops them and it allows you to blow warm air in your house. Now, I know there's people that are ready to fight right now. Josh, it doesn't blow warm air in your house. It removes heat from the outdoor and puts it, blah, blah, blah. Got it. I know heat transfer. I'm just trying to explain to folks what a heat pump is. So that's all a heat pump is, whether it's a mini split heat pump, a conventional heat pump, an inverter heat pump, any kind of heat pump, dual fuel system with a heat pump. That's all a heat pump is. And a mini split, it used to be pretty simple, right? It used to be just one of those things hanging on your wall, right? A wall hung mini split with an outdoor condenser. And now that term is more encompassed than that. It encompasses more encompassed than that. Is that the right verbiage? I probably sound really dumb right now. It encompasses way more than just a wall hung 1-to-1 mini split today, because today we also have floor mount mini splits. We have ducted mini splits where there's actual duct work coming off of that, and an array of different options. And I'm actually going to take a moment and just a moment to thank the sponsor of our show, which is Daikin. And they have an array of options, right? They have an array of mini split options, ductless options, ducted options, inverters, and just on and on. And I'm really glad you asked that question. And also letting us know you're from Oregon. But mini splits, they're just smaller. 99% of the, well, I don't know if it's 99%, but a large percentage of them are inverter systems, and they are the technology itself is more efficient, it's quieter, etc. And if you go outside of our country where we love our gas guzzling cars and our ducted air conditioners, you pretty much only see mini splits. And there are other countries that you can only get a mini split if you want to add air conditioning to your home. So let's see. Let's take a moment that now to thank tonight's sponsor, and that is, of course, Daikin.
Day after day, I'm feeling the same. But today, I'm feeling a change. It's blowing this way like a new hurricane. And it's blowing, I'm feeling a change. Can't stop it now. You can't stop it now. Season change. Here come the new. You can't stop it now.
All right. Let's see. Ryan says, for training on mini splits, combustion analysis, sizing equipment, ductwork design, and being versatile enough to explain things to homeowners at any level, from a novice, I think that means novice, notice, to an engineer. I would say most engineers are novices. I'm just kidding. I'm going to start a fight tonight. I'm going to start a fight. That's what we're up to. I see Ben just joined us. Ben, give me a thumbs up if you are ready. Okay, perfect. So we are going to bring on Ben in just a moment. But yeah, so I think that's really good feedback, Ryan. And I think you hit on some of the definitely pain points that I have seen at my, when I was working for a distributor, some of the pain points we saw as well. So let's jump over to introducing Ben. Let's see. I'm lost my place here. Here we go. Tonight's guest is an expert in the HVAC industry with more than 25 years of experience. He has had many roles working as a comfort advisor, a technician, business owner, and consultant. And this gives him a unique perspective across every side of the trade. He also holds certifications in advanced conflict resolution and executive coaching, and today serves as the National Sales Training Manager for Daikin, Goodman, and Amana. Everyone, please welcome Ben Middleton. Let's go. Hello, sir.
Well, thank you so much, Josh, for having me on here. And thank you for that great introduction. I'm super excited to be here.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for joining us. I don't know that we, a lot of times I just realized my camera's mirroring. So it didn't say new HVAC. It said win. But anyway, I don't think a lot of especially homeowners never get to even see you, right? They don't ever get to see, there's a whole other side to our industry. And I don't even know that they would even they never even think about it. They just see this piece of equipment that's installed in their home and they just hope it never breaks down. And that's kind of the end of it, right? So I would love to hear more from you. Like, what are some of the things homeowners don't ever even know about or consider that, that you're up against?
Well, I think that's a great question. And I think you bring up an excellent point. Surveys have been done in the industry so many times. We're constantly polling homeowners and trying to understand, what homeowners think when it comes to HVAC. And, the first thing is, do homeowners really even know what HVAC stands for? But Honeywell back in the 90s did a homeowner poll, and they were just trying to figure out, what brand of equipment people had in their homes. And what was interesting is the number one brand that came back at that time was Honeywell. It was the name that was on the thermostat. We recently did that poll again back in 2020 and just took a sample size of random homeowners. And it was funny, for that particular poll, it came back Nest. And so I think you bring up an excellent point that a lot of homeowners, they just expect that HVAC system to work. I've talked to so many contractors that have told me, yeah, the homeowner called me up and said, we asked, how old is the system? Everybody's system is 5 years or newer. And you get out there, and of course, the system is 20, 25, even 30 years old. But again, people don't think about that piece of equipment until it's not working. So when we talk to contractors, one thing I bring up all the time is the fact that many homeowners know more about funerals and caskets than they do about HVAC. And everybody needs to pause, because how much do you know about funerals and caskets?
Probably more than I'd like to admit. or less than I'd like to admit, maybe.
So I think that's a good point. And a lot of times contractors will go out and start talking about various different things, but they use technical jargon that is difficult for the homeowner to understand. And we can simplify our system so much. And so we spend a lot of times just in that communication journey. And how do you effectively communicate the importance of what you're doing and putting together? So, the other big thing when we talk about HVAC, it's not an appliance that I come and drop off and plug in and it's going to work no matter who puts it in. All of these systems have to be engineered and designed in order to work properly. And so a lot of our training goes into that engineering and designing of the systems. But then we talk a lot about today, when you think about the current economy and just what's going on, a lot of homeowners are tightening their belts today. So how do you make a system affordable? And so we talk a lot about how do you help a homeowner leverage financing to be able to get the system that they really want to put in their home. And what are some other ways that you can make HVAC systems affordable for the homeowner to be able to get all of the comfort they want? In that same survey that we did with homeowners, we just asked, when you hear the word comfort, what does that mean to you? Do you know how many people said, the couch or the bed or and so a heating and air conditioning contractor comes out and says, well, we're going to bring you comfort. And the homeowner mind goes to, okay, what? You're going to bring a couch out here? You're going to bring a brand new bed? And so it's those little teeny tiny things that we start really unpacking and trying to understand how do we all of us just better communicate?
I think that's a really good perspective. I remember working at a company years ago that we would intentionally call things different than what they actually were because it was sometimes confusing, right? So,
Mm.
um, I just I think motors are pretty universal, but I just remember some of the other components and the terms that they would throw around and use, and I hadn't considered I don't want to say dumbing it down, but making it more basic for
Mhm.
that homeowner so you can relate to them more. I think that's part of the battle as a home service business is you want to connect and you want to, you know, be able to be on the same level, right? So yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I want to admit something to you, Ben. You and I have we've met a few times. I think we
Uh-huh.
even had dinner one night, but I don't really understand what exactly you do. Like, are you in charge of like when I call a regional tech support guy, are you training him too? Or what exactly where do you fall in the whole this giant Daikin corporation that builds these great units that I fell in love with along the way? Where are you in all of that?
That's another great question. And so there are definitely different buckets in terms of training. So my focus is all on sales and business development training for our contractors.
Okay.
Our technical training team, there's one of my peers that I work with, Robin Hooper. He oversees all of the technical training and puts that together. And he always talks about we do all of the training that happens at the unit. And so you kind of think of where my team kind of stands is we're before the unit is installed and we're after the unit is installed, just making sure that we take care of it. So I do focus a lot on making sure that the comfort advisors that are out there really understand how to find the best application for our equipment so that our equipment's going to perform and thrive in that environment and that we're going to deliver on every promise that we made that homeowner. And, we've got a wide breadth of product, a lot of different options, a lot of different things, different ways that you can solve problems. So it's how do I find the best solution for that challenge that homeowner is experiencing today?
I got it. Got it. Okay. So that kind of puts it in perspective for me. I remember when I was a DCP, and for those of you that don't know, I was a Daikin dealer. We only sold Daikin at the end when I sold my business. And yeah, I remember Daikin offered all kinds of trainings and
Mhm.
online stuff and just trying to help, because sometimes some of these folks, they're maybe they have a few employees, but they're out here and they're exchanging thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars, depending on what they're doing with a homeowner. And there were trainings that were just as simple as how to be a better business owner, how to help your customers better, you know, how to install the equipment correctly. I just remember there being an array of training. What are I am curious because again, you're on the other side of this. So what are some things you think about or consider when you're putting together a training or the next bit of education for whoever's going to be consuming that? What are some things that maybe I never even considered?
So I think there's a lot of things. We just actually did a survey of HVAC contractors that are out there, and I'll step back. So obviously, training is near and dear to me, and really that comes down to people development, right, and unlocking the infinite potential of every human being that's out there. And so really if I'm looking at people development, I need to understand, how much time are we going to spend in people development? And there's always a balancing act here. But if I took it to one extreme, if you looked at Google, so Google with all of their employees, how much time do you think they want their employees to spend on training? And this is things even not related to the field that they actually are working in at Google. How much time do you think Google wants their employees to spend in training?
Oh, I don't know. A lot, I would think.
So how much time per week do you think that they are going to want their employees to train?
I mean, if I was still a business owner, my best employees, I mean, I would think at least 2 hours a night and maybe a couple nights a week. So at least 5 hours.
Okay. That's really, really on the generous side. So Google, they want their employees to train at minimum of 8 hours a week. Like I said, they're on one extreme. And so that's one full work day out of every week they want their employees to spend on not generating revenue for the company.
Interesting.
And actually spend, and so they pay their employees to learn. And like I said, it could be a skill that's not even related to their profession. But Google's done a lot of studies, and they found that when their employees are practicing in this learning and development, that it actually brings back, huge benefits to the company. And the company actually looks at problems differently. They solve problems differently. And it's actually created some of their most important innovation, having employees look at things that maybe are not directly related to the work that they do in that field. When we pull HVAC contractors, so we just did a recent survey, we found the typical HVAC contractor is probably looking at about 8 hours worth of training for a technician per year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And there was a group of contractors that said, I'm not going to pay their wages when they're there. I'm not going to pay for their training, and they need to do it on their own time.
Wow.
And then there was another group of contractors on the opposite side that said, yes, we're going to encourage training. We're going to pay for it. We're going to pay them. And we're actually going to give them a reward if they complete training. That's what's going to help them to be able to get a pay increase, or, so we're going to really put together a roadmap as far as a career development plan for that individual. And so there's a wide spectrum that we look at training out there. And one of the biggest barriers that we found to contractors for training was time. So when do you schedule a training? So you've been on the distribution side, just like I've been. You've been on the contractor side, and inevitably a distributor will say, okay, we're going to offer a training class because all my dealers said they really wanted us to come out and do sales training or technical training or business training or marketing training, whatever it was that the contractors were looking for. They pick a time, they pick a date, and they get a bunch of contractors that sign up. And then the day of the training happens, and what happens with half the class?
No show.
They got busy.
I bought 30 donuts
and
and only 2 people showed up.
Right. And so it's really difficult for a manufacturer to figure out, how are we going to put together a training program? People are asking for it. They say they want it, but they don't show up. And so that's where technology is really getting exciting. There's a lot of ways to deliver education and training today. And, like what you and I are doing right now, doing a live stream is a great way to be able to reach people and be in front of people and be able to do that. And then you can take that and record it, and you can make it on demand training content, right? And so you can allow people to be able to do that. And then you're able to go ahead, and after you get the people into that, being able to do that, then there's other technologies such as virtual reality, simulation-based training. And I'm seeing some of the largest contractors in the nation are actually utilizing VR headsets because technology is changing so quick today. Just think about the last couple of years. For all of your audience members, this industry has had massive changes. We went through a whole entire regulatory change on the way that we do the efficiency of our equipment. We went from SEER to SEER 2. And that was a massive change for everybody in terms of the matchups and everything else that we have. And then you also have the changes that we had in refrigerants. So going from an A1 refrigerant to an A2L. And that was a massive shift that a lot of technicians needed to be trained. A lot of salespeople needed to be trained. A lot of business owners needed to be trained. And there were a lot of questions people had. How do I store an A2L? What do I need to do as far as my truck? What do I need to do in terms of when I'm out at the customer's home? How do I make sure that this is going to be safe? And so there's a lot of things that go into that. And so there's a lot of opportunities to bring a lot of different new technologies out there to be able to train. But what that did to all of the labs is if a contractor was large enough to have their own training lab, that meant they had to keep changing equipment out. That's costly and takes a lot of time. What VR allows me to do is change a little bit of code, and I have the latest equipment all updated and ready for people to be able to learn in that.
That's a good
platform and put that
point.
together.
That's a really, I had never considered that before. Cause I have to be honest, I've always been a little hard on the VR stuff. Cause you get a kid out there that's done a bunch of VR training, and I've always played a little devil's advocate and said, well, his hands are still soft. He hasn't actually held a screwdriver yet.
Well, here's one of the things I always say, because I've heard that in our industry quite a bit. But what I originally went to school for was aeronautical engineering. And do you think they put a pilot into a multi-million-dollar aircraft first and say, okay, let's go ahead and practice this? Or where do they put the pilot first?
That's a good, you're making too much sense, Ben Middleton. That's
They
a
put the
good
pilot
point.
into a simulator. That is the first place a pilot goes, is they learn in a simulator, and they get all of that muscle memory. They learn where all of the gauges are. They learn where everything goes, and they learn how to put everything together. And then they take them into the real world, right? And they say, okay, now you're going to observe and you watch. And then they say, okay, now I want you to take over the controls and go ahead and do it. What I have found, you take a brand new green tech and you say, okay, I want you to do this install 10 times in VR. Great news is they're not going to blow up any transformers. They're not going to start any fires as they're brazing. They're going to be able to get kind of that muscle memory, know where everything goes. Now, when they go out with the lead installer doesn't have to explain some of the basic things. Can say, hey, go prepare that unit for setting and leveling. They've done it 10 times in VR. They know exactly how they need to prep the area. Now the lead installer can come over there and check everything, make sure that it's right. But so we're able to speed things up. We're able to make sure that things are done right. And we're able to help somebody learn and continue their journey. And so it just accelerates the learning process throughout the whole entire way that we're putting things together.
It probably makes things a little more fun too. Sorry to interrupt you, but yeah, it's a little more fun than, having to wake up at 5 a.m. and have that senior tech yell at you and because he hasn't had his coffee yet, Anyway.
Yeah.
You gonna say something else?
I'm just kind of looking at all of the chats that going in here and just making sure that we're not missing anything as the side conversations going on over here. But, so VR has a place in it, right? I think also the live streams has a place in it. And then in the classroom, the lab setting, that has a place as well, right? Getting the hands-on in what you're doing there. We also created our own VR classroom. So here's one of the things that I've found about Zoom. How many people love being on a Zoom meeting? I don't think anybody loves being on a Zoom meeting, right? In fact, how many people turn their cameras off? How many people are shooting emails while the Zoom meeting's going on? How many people are just not paying it? And everybody hears this. You go into a meeting and then somebody calls somebody's name, and then it takes 5 minutes for the person to find the unmute button because they had 3 other screens that were open. And finally they answer. And then what's the thing they say first? What was that question again? They weren't paying attention to everything that was going on. And so we created a VR classroom. Have you been in a VR headset? Have you played Beat Saber or any of the other games that are in a VR headset?
No, I mean, I've stood there and watched, like at some of the shows where they have the TVs and you can see what they see, but I've not actually worn a headset.
Okay. So I just want you to imagine this. I put on a headset. Here's one cool thing. I can't check my phone anymore. So I can't look at texts. I can't look at emails. There are no distractions. I am 100% focused on the instructor. So we created our own virtual metaverse, if you will, for Daikin that allows us to be able to go in, and now we can practice doing all of the skills that we need to. So we were talking earlier about how does a tech really communicate with a homeowner? Guess what? I built a whole entire home. And so now I can role play and I practice, and the tech and the whole entire class can walk through the home with me, and I can play the homeowner, and the tech can practice as we're going through just communicating different things to me. The kind of the fun stuff is I can blow an air conditioner up to 20 stories tall, and I can walk inside of the air conditioner. I can, and we can point out different parts within the equipment. We shrink everybody down. We walk through the duct work, and now I can talk about airflow, but we're actually inside of the duct work talking about airflow, talking about air distribution, how a system works. And so there's a lot of great things you can do in virtual reality that I can't do in the real world. And so that makes for a great learning environment. There's no distractions. You're 100% immersed. And, one of the things that happens is you have muscle memory. So if you've done training in a distributor shop before, or you've done it in a hotel room, you remember the hotel space. But when I'm in VR, it's like I was actually in that house. And so one kind of experiment I always ask everybody to do is I ask the question, what is the color of the carpet in your living room? And I don't want you to answer the question, but what everybody did that's listening to you and me right now is in their mind's eye, they just transported themselves back to their living room. They looked down at the carpet and they said, oh, the color of the carpet is whatever the color of the carpet is. And that's how we remember things in a 3D environment. So most people do not recall a whole bunch of stuff they read. I don't know if you're anything like me, but I can read a whole entire page. And then if you were to ask me questions about that whole entire part, maybe I remembered 20% of the stuff that was on the page. But if I actually go and do something and kinesthetically learn, because we're creatures that live in a 3D world, we learn in a 3D environment.
Yeah, that's geez, you make a really good argument there, Ben. I think that all makes sense. I remember some of the things I learned along the way. I mean, I definitely could see where it would speed things up, and that's really cool. Next time I see one, I definitely will be putting it on, and I have to tell you, I'm also a little bit, I don't want to say a germaphobe, but I was like, I don't know if I want to wear, what the last guy was wearing. But
after 30 people have been wearing it, yeah.
Yeah. So I'll make sure I bring disinfectant wipes with me. I'll wipe it out, and then I will definitely try it out. You were talking about Zoom meetings a minute ago. I saw this hilarious picture last week where this business had wear your Zoom attire to work day. And from the waist up, they were all in suits and everything. And then the waist down, they were wearing like pajama bottoms and shorts and everything. So I can only imagine in virtual reality, everybody's probably sitting in their pajamas or whatever, but they're learning, how to fix air conditioners better. So that's pretty cool.
It is fun.
Where do you see, and it's okay if you don't have an answer to this, but we've come a long way just while I've been in this industry. When I got in this industry, I mean, I think we still had dial-up internet at my house, so we've come a long, long, long way. Where do you have any idea of where we're going from on a training side? I mean, is AI going to play a big role in all of this, you think?
Well, I definitely think AI is going to help with troubleshooting, right? You're going to build AI engines, and so you'll be able to, and really a lot of the technology is there already. So we've partnered up with other companies out there like XOI. XOI is a great, way to bring, on the job training, because I really think that's always been kind of the holy grail. How do I teach that tech that is on the job site and give them the information that they want right now? One of the challenges you have is everybody has all this information that is available to them through YouTube. And so what ends up happening is people start Googling different model numbers. And a lot of times you don't have the manufacturer stuff coming up. It's another contractor that's saying, hey, here's how you fix this particular problem. And it's great how I love how our industry works together and we support each other. Unfortunately, how am I sure that that's the right way that I'm supposed to fix that piece of equipment that's out there? And that's the danger that's out there right now. It's great that there's a ton of information available, but how do I check and make sure that it's factual? And so we've been working with different companies with getting workflows out there and getting all of our database out there. I will say we're working on an AI tool that we're about to release, but basically you'll be able to take your phone, scan a data plate, and then all of the service bulletins will come up for that piece of equipment. All of the installation manuals and the service manuals. And then I can go in there with AI and I can say, okay, I've got this error code that's coming up right now. And it can give you all of the possible ways that you can troubleshoot that and figure out what's really going on with that piece of the equipment. The other great thing that the phone does for us is it allows us to be able to do tech support a lot better. And so we utilize that XOI technology so that we can use Vision Live, where a technician can actually dial in with our tech support and use that phone to say, here's what I'm seeing. And one of our service people that's actually on the other end of the phone can freeze the screen and say, okay, I want to put your black lead here and your red lead here, and literally circle on the screen where they need to check. Okay, what's the voltage reading that you're getting there? And so again, we can walk people through, and you have a second set of eyes out there in the field that's actually taking a look at what's going. And so I really do believe we're going to see more on the job type training like that through AI as we start to see things grow. I think you're going to see us utilize more digital mediums. So we talked about VR, live streaming. I think all of those things are going to be really, really important. Video is still going to be important, but I also think there's always going to be a place for the live hands-on. Like you said, I don't want soft hands going out there. But, I do think technology is going to continue to grow for all of the people that are using Daikin cloud services out there. That's a way to prevent a truck roll. So now I can literally see exactly what's going on with that piece of equipment. And I love the stories that I hear from my contractors that are using cloud services. Everybody has those late nights where a shortcut gets taken and maybe the installers don't completely set up that piece of equipment that they have. And so when the installers leave, now the homeowner calls up to the office the next day and says, hey, system's not quite blowing, warm air. It's kind of cool, the air that's coming out. And I've had contractors tell me, yep, we saw that they forgot to configure the furnace for hybrid heat. And so they just go ahead and click a couple of settings, and all of a sudden it's set up and it's able to do what it's supposed to do. Or they can adjust the fan speed without rolling a truck. And now put your hand up by the register. Is that better? Oh, that's perfect. How did you change that? Well, it's because you're dialed in with cloud services and you're actually able to change with that communicating equipment that you have. The homeowner also has a great opportunity now that they can control, and they get some great feedback on their systems, such as energy usage reports. They can change the temperatures when they're away from home. And so there's a lot of great opportunities there. I always talk to everybody. So when I go to the distributors, I ask, what is the number one type of thermostat that you sell? And what would you guess is the number one thermostat that distributors sell? What is the number one thing that contractors are buying?
Whatever the cheapest thing on the shelf is.
Okay, it's the non-programmable one heat, one cool thermostat is the number one selling thermostat that most distributors sell out of. And I hear that time and time again. But I went and spent some time with Home Depot and Lowe's and was talking to them, and I asked, what's the number one type of thermostat that you sell? Because right here's the homeowners actually going into the store, and they have everything available to them as a choice.
Yep.
And Home Depot and Lowe's tell me without a doubt it is a Wi-Fi enabled thermostat. Now, for the contractors that are listening on here, what they're telling me is Yeah, I hate the homeowners that go out and buy that thermostat and then expect me to come out and put it in.
Right.
But I think that's one of the biggest things that we talk to contractors. Our job is to do what the homeowner wants. And so if you don't give the homeowner an option and say, I can do this or I can do that, which one would you like? Are we really serving the homeowner?
Yeah.
And I
Good
think
point.
that's the biggest challenge is so many contractors go out there and they're prescriptive. Well, I looked around the home and I figured that this is what the homeowner wanted. So that's what I quoted them versus giving a menu and saying, here's your options. What do you want to do?
Yeah, because I think a lot of contractors are guilty of saying, well, I already know what they want. I don't even need to ask. And I'm like, I remember the first high end 20 plus SEER system I ever sold was to a lady that, I mean, she was the last person you would have thought. I mean, she smoked like a freight train. Her house was very, very cluttery. And I was like, there's no way. And I remember my lead guy calling me saying she wants option one. She wants the big dog. And I was like, you're kidding, and her argument, cause I even asked her, I said, I noticed you picked the expensive one. And she said, yeah, it came with better filtration and all of that. And I smoke. And that's what and I'm like, I never would have considered that. And it's totally on point. I think it's really good perspective. I tell you, Ben, I didn't even, we went right into this. Like you logged in and I just hit you with it. And the pro that you are, you just rolled with it. But I want to, if you don't mind, I'd like to get a little personal and kind of do what I normally do at the beginning and just kind of go back in time and just, how did you get into this industry? Do you think a young Ben Middleton in his 20s would have ever thought you'd be where you are now?
So many people I talk to in this industry never planned on getting into HVAC. And like I said in the beginning, I was going to school for aeronautical engineering and was sure that I was going to be a pilot. One thing I learned, though, was flight time was very, very expensive. And I needed to figure out a way to pay for that flight time. And I am so blessed to have had an HVAC contractor take a chance on a young Ben Middleton and say, hey, why don't you come in here? We're going to let you kind of run our IAQ department. And I just got fascinated by HVAC because as I was going through airplane physics and learning about aerodynamics and airflow and everything else, I learned there was a lot of applications to HVAC and understanding duct design and airflow and air movement and how everything goes together. And so I had a blast, just really getting to understand HVAC. I was up in Racine, Wisconsin. There's a lot of Frank Lloyd Wright homes up there. And if anybody's worked on a Frank Lloyd Wright home from an HVAC perspective, it's a nightmare because he didn't design anywhere for ductwork to go. But that started to become a lot of fun for me in trying to figure out how do we figure this out. We also had a lot of hydronic systems and people were asking, there's got to be a better way to cool the home. And so we did high velocity systems. We did a lot of, ductless systems. But it was like being in this old house and just coming up with a lot of fun and learning how to do all of these different things and put these things together. Yeah, those are the Frank Lloyd Wright homes. Lots of windows, lots of glass. He always wanted, to be inside of nature, but there was no easy place to figure out where ductwork was going to run. And so we got to learn a lot of fun things and how to take care of those problems and put those together. And I was hooked. But that's the fun thing that I would tell a young person. Be careful. Once you get into the HVAC industry, you're never going to get out of it because it's just such a great place with great people. Every day you wake up, it's a different challenge. It's a different problem. And so it always just keeps you active in what you're doing.
I like it. So
somebody's bringing up IAQ, which is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. I don't know how much time we've got here, but
What are your thoughts?
Well, again, if I'm going to go in there, HVAC, how many contractors completely forget ventilation?
Mm-hmm.
That's the second letter in what we're supposed to be doing. It's heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. And when it talks about indoor air quality, the Environmental Protection Agency a long time ago came out with a campaign that said dilution is the solution to pollution. And I saw Honeywell do a great video that they put together where you take a cup of coffee in a clear glass cup, and you just run the water inside of there, and then all of a sudden you see it, clear out. But fresh air is so important to buildings, especially as they keep building the homes tighter and tighter and tighter. Your ventilation strategy is absolutely critical. And I will tell you, for every contractor and homeowner that's sitting in this room right now, understanding how to introduce ventilation into the space is probably one of the most important things you can do when it comes to IAQ. There's a lot of other strategies, and I see other things going on here, UV lights. And the challenge with UV, comment in here is absolutely right, is UV takes time to break down a cell wall. And so when I'm moving air across at 800 CFM, there's very little time that it has to be able to spend actually breaking down that cell wall. And so you've got all of these air changes that are going on. What UV does do a great job of doing is cleaning surfaces. And so if I put it in a coil area to keep all of that stuff from growing on the coil, that's a great place for it to work. But if I'm just using it as something to clean the air in the return, you're probably going to see very little impact with that. The other thing that I look at is, photocatalytic oxidation, PCO technology, another great technology that has been developed and put together. It works just like the surface of the earth. So we have all of this nitrous oxide that is on the surface of the earth. And when the UV light reacts with that creates radicals, which go ahead and begin to break down all of the contaminants that are in the air. Hydroxy radicals, that's kind of an interesting thing when you get into it. So I saw the hydroxy radicals. Those were actually, that was a phrase that was coined by a manufacturer out there. And there's some different things as far as the science behind that. And so when you start to look at all of these technology, I'm going to say the number one thing contractors should get good at first and foremost is ventilation. Then it comes in filtration. Filtration is going to actually help us to be able to get it out. But then the other thing that I found, I was able to spend quite a bit of time with Air Advice, and we did a lot of tests on homes. In fact, we had the data from over 10,000 different homes that were tested. Source removal is a big thing. So I'll tell you a case study that we did up in Minnesota. We actually went to a home, and they had a child that was suffering from some health conditions, and they were trying to figure out how can we make this home more healthy. And nothing tugs on your heartstrings more than seeing a child that's in distress and trying to figure out how do we solve these problems. Again, why is HVAC such a great industry to be in? Because we impact the lives and health of so many people that are out there. But we started doing testing, and we saw that the VOCs were just absolutely off the chart. And we could have gone in there and just said, well, let's just put in fresh air, or let's do this and take care of it. But we did an investigation. And so I would say there's another acronym with IAQ. So investigate first. And so we started going around, and we get into the garage, and we find out that there was a whole bunch of fertilizer that was being stored in the garage because there was a sale at Home Depot, and Dad figured I'm going to get about 5 years worth of fertilizer here because it's a really great deal. That's fine, but it was off-gassing. And because it was a connected garage, and because the building envelope wasn't completely sealed off, the home being in a negative pressure was actually drawing that into the home. So the first thing we did is said, get the fertilizer out of the garage. Go get a shed, put that in the backyard. And so they did that, and we saw the VOC levels drop almost immediately just from source removal. Next step was to get the house balanced right. So we balanced the home, made sure the house had a slightly positive pressure, and that was able to really clear up a lot of the challenges and issues that they were having in the home. Then we
My
gave it a
God.
great filter, and we're able to take care of that. And so those are the things that you want to, look at when you're in a home. So investigate first, then we analyze all the data, and then we quote a solution. So that's the kind of the acronym that I always tell everybody with IAQ: investigate, analyze, and quote. And that kind of puts everything together for you.
That is a really cool story. I'm so glad that everything I've been saying on my channel for years now, you seem to have touched on. There's one that I always touch on that you did not yet, but I always say after, sort target the source,
Mhm.
fix that, and then I always say the big three. The big three are ventilation, um, filtration, and then humidity control.
Mhm.
And that's the three. And so there's all these wonky products on the market, but I feel like those are sometimes, even if they do, even if they are effective to any degree in the home, if they're not focusing on the big three, they're sometimes band-aiding a bigger problem. So, yeah, man, that story though, you really got me on that. That was a really detailed, wow. But anyway, um, I want to, I remember you had me as a guest on your show, and I
Yeah.
wanted to, give you an opportunity to just kind of tell folks, because your show has really shaped into, I mean, you've had so many different types of guests on your show. I was watching it just the other day, and you were on the beach interviewing folks. And then the other day, well, that was a few months ago. And then the other day you were at the ballpark, and I was like, man, you're just, you have so many cool guests. So if you don't mind, especially folks that are in the trade, just kind of touch on what exactly you guys are doing.
Sure. The name of the show is Accelerated HVAC Success. It's on YouTube. Anybody can go ahead and look at Accelerate, search for Accelerated HVAC Success. It should pop up. We just get all kinds of people from all walks of life. So right now we're spending some time with contractors, trying to understand how how they found success in their business and what they've been doing to help people out. We also have been working really hard to bring in our product managers, talk about new product, but then just other tools that are helping contractors succeed. Like I think our most recent one was with Marissa Reddy over at Conduit Tech. And so she's developed a great technology to help make heating and cooling loads a lot easier using LiDAR on the iPad. And so now a contractor can go in, literally take the iPad and just show it around the room, and it maps the whole entire space, measures the windows and the walls. And you can do a full-blown Manual J 8th edition heating and cooling load. It's ACA approved of the home. And again, in the comments, I've seen people talking about heating and cooling loads. It's so important that contractors are making sure they get the sizes right, especially as equipment gets more efficient. As the equipment gets more and more efficient, we're going to see that it's going to be more and more important for us to get the equipment sized right in order for it to perform properly and give the customer what they're looking for. And see a comment in here, homeowner will be doing those loads. I want somebody to do the loads so that these systems get designed right. And, I think that's one of the biggest things that we have to also be aware of in our industry. The contractors that are making it easy for consumers to do business with are going to be the contractors that are going to succeed as we continue to go forward. What are most homeowners Googling? How much is a new furnace? How much is a new air conditioner? And for so long, what what homeowners have heard from many contractors is, well, I can't give you a price over the phone. We're going to have to send somebody out to come to your home and take a look at it. I'm starting to see some contractors have some pretty good success building tools right on their website that allows a homeowner to go ahead and build a system, build their quote. And again, going back to what we were talking about, when you give the homeowner options and allow them to build their system, they're typically not going with the base efficiency system. In fact, the contractors I'm talking to, we're starting to find that those contractors are actually selling more high efficiency equipment. The homeowner doesn't want to put the equipment in by themselves. very few, and from all of our best estimates, what we have seen within the industry, less than 3% of homeowners actually want to put the equipment in by themselves. But what homeowners are demanding today is transparency. They want price transparency. And I always kind of flip it back around. How many contractors out there go into a Best Buy or a Home Depot and you're looking for a washing machine or dryer, and you pull your phone out and you start checking price to make sure you're getting the best deal? Why would we expect our industry to be any different, that a homeowner is not going to go and check and make sure that they're getting a good deal? So then contractors say, well, what do I do with my labor? I think we just need to tell homeowners, this is how much it costs to put in, and be transparent and open. And that's the contractors that are embracing that and giving full transparency to the homeowner are the contractors that are really starting to see a lot of success and move forward.
You struck a chord, Ben. There's all caps here. Yes.
I see that.
I tell you, somebody is going to think that this was all staged. You and I, we had a very brief conversation, but you and I did not talk about conduit before our show. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I agree with that.
And so it was just so funny you brought them up, because they are sponsoring some of our videos on my channel soon. And we're going to be going on site with a contractor and doing a load calculation with their software. It's so impressive. And I liked what you said. At least somebody's going to do it correctly, because so many systems, they're not doing that. And then it's the homeowner that ends up paying the price literally after the fact. So that's really, really funny. But yeah, I think your show is really cool. I'm a big fan. And I think it's just really cool, all the different types of guests that you've had on your show. Very cool. Well, I want to do this. I've got one more question for Ben. And so stay tuned for that. But before we get to that, those of you that are in the chat, we all know there are bad apples in our industry. If you know a good apple, a good heating and air electrician or plumber, drop their name in the chat, where they're located. Let's show some love to the good apples. And who knows, somebody in your area might see your comment and you might show them more than love and send some business their way. So drop those in the chat, name of the company, and where they're located. Ben, my last question to you is a simple one, and it's the same question that I asked most of our guests. And that is, think of your closest family member that does not live with you. If they were to call you tomorrow and say, Ben, you're in the industry, you know more than anyone, you definitely know more than Josh, what advice are you giving that family member? Where are they going to start in this process of buying a heating and air system?
So the advice that I would give somebody if they were looking to buy a heating and air conditioning system, a family member that was calling me, is number one, find somebody that's going to come out and do the full investigation. If they don't do a heating and cooling load, if they're not measuring your ductwork, and if they're not, giving you that full transparency and saying, here's the options, and helping you build a system together, don't do business with them. Because you deserve, these are not inexpensive systems that we're looking at. HVAC systems can be as much as a car or more.
Yeah.
And it's something that deserves, somebody that's actually going to come out and engineer that system so that it's going to work well. And I would probably tell this story. So my church here in Katy, Texas, they just had a contractor come out and say, hey, the rooftops are shot. We need to replace them. And I asked the question, how old are they? And they said 13 years old. And I'm thinking 13 years old for a rooftop? That seems a little bit premature.
Yep.
And so we started doing some more investigation. Come to find out that there were no economizers ever installed on these rooftops. This is feeding a sanctuary, going back to my ventilation part.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no fresh air, no free cooling that's being offered with these systems that they have. And then we started to look at the ductwork, and it was grossly undersized for these 20-ton systems. Reason the system died was because it was never installed right in the first place. And if you want to get a good long life out of this investment that you're making, you want to get all the efficiency that's promised from the system, and you want to have all the comfort that you're expecting from the system, it needs to be installed right. And so that's the most important thing, is to have somebody come out and actually design that system for you, and somebody that actually cares about the customer versus somebody that's just trying to make a deal.
That's a really, I just put heat and air in my church. So that's that's funny you brought that up. I put a Daikin mini split in the kitchen, actually. Very cool. Well, Ben, I really appreciate you taking time out to hang out with us. It's not every day that homeowners get access to, I don't want to say someone of your caliber. I mean, but someone that you're dealing with the other side of things, and homeowners don't ever even get to see your side of things. So I just think it's really cool that you took time out to hang out with me and go over some of this stuff. Is there anything else you want to just make sure that we mention before we say goodbye to everyone?
I really appreciate you just having me on here. This has been a lot of fun. Really enjoyed the conversation, and hope that we can do this again sometime.
Oh, me too. Me too. I appreciate you saying that, because, me too. Well, cool. Well, for those of you that are in the chat, we will be back next Tuesday night. It'll be me flying solo and taking your questions live. We'll be here 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. Make it a great week. We'll see you then.